Hey everybody, my name is Schey and welcome to Habitat Now, and this is our May edition of NGG. Those who are not aware of it, it's a exhibition focused on artists that aren't currently um not bottom art in our gallery, and we're trying to expose the next generation of artists that aren't in Grandma's art collection yet. And thank you many grandmas that joined me for this. It's not about the concept of you're not capable of loving the work, because you more than capably are, but you might not have it in your collection yet. That's kind of the snakes on a plane approach to this title. This is our what is it, our third year of the show, which is absolutely incredible. And I have Sadhbh Mowlds here, who's joining us from Ireland right now to give us a quick talk. So I want to get going. So if we can get right to her, I just want to go over a little bit of housekeeping. And voila. So first and foremost, every Saturday we're doing Zooms. We're doing another one next week. I'll tell you a little about that one real soon. Join me. And then my assistant Regina is going to be doing one on the 20th because I have a birthday party to go to with my boy. So family stuff. Everybody understands. These continue all year long. I look forward to the end of the year. We find out who the winner is. We'll talk more about that as time goes by. So the international is less than a month away. And if you haven't signed up, if you're not going to be here, everybody's going to be here. The GAS conference is here. We're having our first ever artist gala. We just ordered very special mugs for that event that just arrived yesterday. We have the auction that I'll talk about in a second. We have the parties. We have the show. We have a special new space across the street that we rented to create a new experience with people from the winner, the last finalists from Blown Away. This is going to be one of the most incredible weeks ever of glass in Detroit. And the DIA is on board, Flint's on board, Toledo, all the institutions are on board. So I hope you have a chance to come and join us. The Masterworks auction is online as of yesterday. I got it all online. It's on Live Auctioneers. It's on the Masterworks site. I'm trying to get the link to work on our current website, but you can view all the works. There's 49 pieces up for auction. An amazing collection. It's gonna knock your socks off. If you want to bid, please bid with me because you saved on the premium. It's the cheapest in the whole entire auction world at 16% if you place a bid, silent bid or phone bid with me versus using the online systems. But you're welcome to use the online systems as well. Next Saturday, we're going to be visiting with Brent Young out of Ohio. He has this incredible ladder that's flame work that's going to be on display during our international. More details about that soon. But for now, I want to welcome, her name is Sadhbh Mowlds. I've learned how to pronounce it. Thank the Lord. And I'm grateful for her for joining us. And I want her to say hello and take over the screen. Actually, please do say hi.
Hi, thanks a million for having me, Aaron. Big honor.
It's great to have you. While you flip your screen around, I met Sadhbh through John Moran, who is a big part of our Habitat family. He just finished a residency at Corning, and she came highly recommended. And we're really impressed with Sadhbh's talent and work. And I'm honored to have you here today. And without further ado, I'll stop talking. Thank you, Sadhbh, for joining us.
Thanks a million for having me. Okay, well, welcome everyone to my NGG presentation. My name is Sadhbh Mowlds. For those that are very confused by that weird spelling, it sounds like 5, but with an S. So I'm born and raised from Dublin, Ireland. I haven't lived here for about 10 years, but I am currently trying to come back home, and it is very much home. This picture on the right, I like to include because it's just hilarious and it kind of, for me, encapsulates the attitude and the humor and the absurdity of living in Dublin. This very handsome stallion mounting the Gardaí, which is the Irish police force.
This must have been fun to see in person, though. I doubt
you
did.
I didn't unfortunately see it in person, but that image circulated for years and years.
And continues.
Hilarious. So I got my bachelor in the National College of Art and Design in Dublin. You can see that smaller picture there is of whiskey stills that are on campus, because the campus is actually on an old Powers whiskey distillery. So this is where I discovered glass for the first time, and I really, really fell in love with the material. Unfortunately, while I was studying there, we suffered the loss of the furnace, which was a tragedy for the students, for the university, but also for the whole country, because it was the last educational glass blowing facility, which has not yet been restored. So there isn't really anywhere to learn how to blow glass in Ireland at the moment. So although that was a pretty big struggle in NCAD, I did manage, while I was there, to meet some incredibly influential people. And the two women on the left there, that's Dr. Caroline Madden and Roisin de Butler. They are standing at the Ireland Glass Biennale, which was opened last week. And it's, if anyone is in Ireland before August, it's a really fantastic show. Caroline was my professor in NCAD, and I've just never met anyone who devotes so much of their time and so much of their life to the success of their students. Standing beside her, Roisin is just an absolute powerhouse within the international glass scene, the Irish glass scene, and she just doles out opportunities to those that she can. And on the right, we have Scott Benefield and myself. That was taken last year, and some of you may know Scott. He's an American, but he's living in the north of Ireland with his wife, Andrea Spencer, who's a fantastic artist too. I met Scott when I was studying in NCAD. He was doing a residency there. And ever since then, he's just been incredibly supportive and been a really great resource and mentor for me. So I'm so grateful that he is on this island and lets me blow glass with him whenever I can. Okay, so after graduating from NCAD, I did a move to Germany where I took part in an internship program from Berlin Glass. I ended up staying and working in Berlin Glass for the following 5 years. And after we kind of lost the furnace in NCAD, my skills were kind of really dwindling, my confidence, I was completely lacking. So it was a really good opportunity for me to kind of get my hands back in the material again, become more comfortable with a lot of the processes. We were doing a lot of commission work for artists and designers. We were doing a lot of residency programs, but a really big goal of Berlin Glass was their community outreach programs. So you can see here that group shot on the right is of a bunch of kids from a local refugee home that we spent 2 weeks with building an ancient Roman style wood-fired furnace, which at the end of those 2 weeks, I got to actually blow glass from the furnace. So that was incredibly rewarding. There's some more images from my time at Berlin. That image on the left is we were doing repairs on this wood-fired furnace. And you can see the local, very German workers grilling their sausages above the flames. And at the time, the studio manager there was a man called Jesse Gunther, who's a really incredible glassmaker and a very good friend of mine. So after working and living there for 5 years, it was a really invaluable experience. I learned a lot, but my own work kind of became pretty stagnant. So I decided to take a move to the States, where just last year I graduated from Southern Illinois University with my MFA. And school life in the States is really, really different to anything that I was used to. I spent a lot of my time there in a, I guess, in a kind of state of mild culture shock, let's say. But my work did really expand greatly. And I really found my voice. I found my style. I became very comfortable with what I was actually putting out into the world. So I am very grateful for my time there, even though it was incredibly bizarre. So after graduating, which was May, I found myself on Murano, where I ended up doing a short stint. I was there for 3 months as a mold maker for Barengo Studios. So Barengo's goal is kind of to bring really high-end contemporary artists to Venice, and then he will collaborate with them to create really high-end contemporary artworks in glass. And that's something that I'm incredibly interested in, very much interested in kind of dissolving this craft stigma that's really attached to glassmaking. So that was a really eye-opening experience for me. You can see some of the work that they were working on while I was there. Is one piece from the Ai Weiwei exhibition on the San Giorgio Basilica was just this massive glass chandelier comprised of over maybe 2,000 cast and blown pieces. I think it weighed over 4 tons. It was just an incredible piece. But a really, really good experience for me to be there. And I missed them a lot. So when I'm not working for other people and I'm making my own work, my work kind of revolves around these 3 interests or themes. The first of which would be the phenomenon of human consciousness. I'm very interested in societal behavior and social norms. And then, of course, the body and flesh. And I'm really interested in how these topics can manipulate each other and affect each other within society and how they can affect us. And this is kind of the breeding ground for a lot of my ideas and where a lot of my work, like the starting point for a lot of all of this stuff that I'm about to show you. Okay, so this is my first endeavor into silicone casting and hyperreal techniques. This piece is called Anonymous, and it's very much based around society's kind of power to condition our consciousness and kind of leaving us with this overwhelming desire to fit in, and therefore kind of keeping us confined within these kind of modern standards of beauty or of normal. And as we go on, we'll kind of see that this is a really common theme throughout a lot of my work. So I very rarely do live casting. So a lot of the work that I'm going to show you will be sculpted from clay, and then I'll cast that in either silicone or I'll make molds to blow into them. So like this piece was sculpted. And this is just painted silicone, foam, and float glass. So window glass.
It's unbelievable to know that's just painted. It looks like you took a human body out of a can and just squeezed it out and molded it.
That is a good idea. I'm going to write that one down.
It's incredible.
So after playing around and experimenting with these really new techniques to me, and I was there, it's all self-taught with a lot of help from YouTube. But after playing around with silicone a lot, I really tried to create the same results, but in glass. So this is kind of some of the results from those experiments. This piece is called Blood of Zion. Excuse me. And again, this is hot mold blown glass. This is all glass. It's cold worked and then brought back up in the kiln and assembled hot. So this piece again is very much concerned with social norms, particularly about the negative effects that organized religion can have on our collective perceptions of female reproductive rights, menstrual taboos, female sexuality. So by reinforcing this kind of chalice or goblet shape as the symbol of femininity and blood as the symbol of divine life, I was trying to kind of disregard the biblical notion that menstruation is a direct result of original sin. And instead, I was replacing the blood of Christ with what I call the sacred menses. And here are some more pieces from that same series. I call these the blood reliquaries. And this is kind of at the point where I start to really consider skin as the physical boundary between our internal and our external selves, which again comes up a lot within my work. Again, this is the same technique as those previous goblets. Okay, so keeping on that kind of religious theme, this was my first attempt at a full life-size figure. So this is a to-scale chimpanzee that I sculpted from scratch, cast in silicone, painted, and punched all the hairs in.
Wow.
And it was very much kind of birthed from my considerations about the dawning of consciousness, the evolution of consciousness, and very much thinking about the mind and why we have a mind, as in we, the human race, why we have a mind, why we assume this superiority over other species, because we assume they don't have a mind, kind of imagining what it would be like if, or maybe they do, if other species have religions or have these kind of organized belief systems. So that the sacred burning heart there is sculpted glass with some brass fixings.
That's incredible. Look at the detail. You're
Thank you.
So incredibly talented.
Thanks. So actually, this is, like I said, this was my first attempt at something like this. And I really had absolutely no idea what I was doing. So I would do things
whatever
very
YouTube video you watched, it really worked.
I would do it all really differently. And again, like I had such little practice or knowledge about all of this. So this was an incredibly ambitious and huge leap that I took. Especially in grad school, I pretty much spent an entire semester doing this. Just put a cheeky little rear shot in there. Okay, so kind of bouncing back to the focus on the skin and this kind of removal of skin or this transformation of skin, specifically that of a woman. This piece is called Unmentionables, and it really highlights the detachment that a lot of us might have with our bodies, which is a relationship that has been just entangled in falsehoods, in shame, and just a millennia of these kind of destructive social constructs. So this is just silicone, painted silicone and bra fixings that's just thrown in the back of the painted chair. And like there's a lot of dark humor in my work that I think a lot of people kind of don't see. It's very evident to me. Yeah. Okay, so I'm kind of, with this one, I'm kind of taking a step back from my obsession with consciousness, and I'm thinking a bit more about the subconscious. So this piece is called Impressionable. It's of two silicone busts and they're facing each other. And I'm really kind of thinking about how our subconscious mimics and absorbs those around us. And really kind of asking the question, like, is anyone really original? You know, does originality really exist, or are we all just kind of these fragmented reflections of each other? And this piece is currently on show at the Irish Glass Biennale. So again, this is just silicone, foam, hair, jewelry, and that glass on the face is just kiln-formed and mirrored glass.
It's a very, very powerful piece. Something you have to really experience, I'm sure, in person and then learn about to get an idea of what you're gazing into. And it turns out you're part of the piece.
Yeah.
In a way.
Exactly, yeah. All right. So here we have pictured the very famous philosophers Jean-Paul Sartre and Simone de Beauvoir sitting at a cafe in Paris. And these two became really quite important for me, especially throughout my research for my thesis work. De Beauvoir, because of her feminist theories, especially considering consciousness and liberation. And Sartre, because of his specific ideas revolving around existentialism and a theory that he calls bad faith. So he describes bad faith as living a life defined by your social situation. And what I mean by social situation, it could be your age or your race or your gender or your profession, anything that kind of society defines you as. And what he says is that when you live a life defined by someone else's ideas of you, you kind of give up or relinquish your innate freedom and therefore completely ignore your authentic self or your authentic desires. And I was really, when I discovered these kind of theories, it kind of all clicked in my head because I was thinking these things for years and I never really could put them into words. But I was thinking of these ideas very much through the lens of my own experiences as a woman. And you can see that quote there, that only the guy who has stopped rowing can rock the boat. And I think about this quote a lot because I think if you're not capable to remove yourself from the situation or to reflect upon your position within society, the way I view it, you have very little room to change and very little room to make yourself comfortable in the situation that you're in. So this is coming onto my my MFA thesis show, which I did therefore entitled Bad Faith. And this is the first piece of that show, which is called All Tied Up. It is of two kind of amorphous glass beings that are constricted and suspended by this red rope. And in between them is this very large mirrored globe that's kind of blocking their view from each other. I use the motif of rope a lot in my work, and I use that as one, a symbol of the suppressive societies that we're born into, but two, more so about this kind of tie that we have to our external self and this stubbornness that we have to let go of our external self. So these are, again, hot mold blown pieces that have been mirrored on the inside. And all of these would have been sculpted in clay beforehand. And you can see that mirroring on the inside. It's really was trying to kind of make it seem like there's some force of divinity within, or some kind of force that's trying to push its way outward. So this piece, which unfortunately broke during install, so I don't have the best images of it, is called Removed. And I think with a lot of my work, I like to kind of raise questions as opposed to provide answers or solutions, because I don't have any of them. But I have a lot of questions. So I think this piece, I was really considering what it would be like for me. I was asking myself these questions if I did make that step and kind of remove myself from this external identity, and in this case, my gender. So I was thinking, would I be more vulnerable? Would I feel less vulnerable? Would I recognize myself? So this is a hot sculpted hand with kiln formed and mirrored glass as the mirror, and then that silicone skin hangs there with some human hair. And moving on to probably my least grotesque piece. This is called Double Crossed, and it really comments on the lack of agency that a lot of us may have when we kind of adhere to the constructs of a system or a society that is systematically against us. And that's very much in the case of, again, my experience as a woman. I use clear glass a lot, especially with hands, when I'm talking about agency and maybe our lack of agency, our lack of control, and the way we decide to kind of relinquish that agency, you know? I think a lot of problems today is that we blame society for a lot, and society has a lot to be blamed for, but I think we don't realize how much power that we have ourselves, you know? And so I talk about that a lot with clear glass and agency and the lack of it. So these are hot sculpted hands, silicone arms, and then just silk in a painted mirror frame. Okay, so this piece called The Tissues of Bondage. Again, you can see that motif of a rope coming up. This is a silicone rope that kind of mimics and imitates flesh or skin, and it's coming out of a drawer of a vanity table. And I think it's kind of obviously exploring this idea that our flesh or our external identity or our skin can become somewhat of a prison, and that we can't really escape it. Okay, so this was the last piece of my thesis show of Bad Face, and it was my second attempt at a full figure, including the chimpanzee. This is of a woman crouched over in front of a mirror, shaving her toe. And so you actually approach this figure. Her name is Eve. You approach her from behind. So once you turn the corner, you catch her gaze in the mirror. And it was really important for me that she kind of had this kind of downtrodden look of shame on her face, that you've kind of walked in on this very intimate moment, on a moment where she usually tries to hide from society. You know, we all want to project ourselves as naturally perfect within society. We don't really want to show these moments of grooming or of shape-shifting. And it was really important for me that the audience too felt this awkwardness. And it's a really, for me, again, a very simple comment just on the absurdities of beauty standards, of societal norms, of how we're meant to be, how we're told to be. And yeah, some women have hairy toes, man. So this was a mostly silicone. There's some foam, a lot of human hair. We have clothing, tiling, a mirror, razor. Okay, so this is more recent work. I just a couple of weeks ago actually finished up a residency at StarWorks in North Carolina. So shout out to StarWorks. It's an absolutely amazing facility with really great people. I was there for 3 months. And again, this is a very similar technique to what I was doing before. It's these hot blow molds. This is called bruised and battered. So again, it's this kind of amorphous glass blob with, this time it has 2 breasts at either end that looks like it's been tied up and captured. And you can see the discoloration there is kind of imitating bruising or injury or scarring. And I guess I'm trying to talk about just the exhaustion that I think a lot of women have with the differences and between like what's allowed for men and what's allowed for women. Particularly talking about this whole, you know, male nipples are allowed, but female nipples are not allowed, you know. So I'm kind of playing with this, the differences here. Okay, so these are also made in StarWorks. These are cunt cones. This was my attempt at, I guess, making a bit more light-hearted work, less conceptually heavy, smaller, easier to pack, easier to ship. These are hot blow mold again. They've been cold worked, picked back up and assembled hot. Yeah, and this, I guess I'm really just playing with the humor and the absurdity of disgust and of language, as well as kind of commenting on the use of the female body as a commodity within modern society. And I really got to get pretty playful with all the coloring on these. I had a lot of experimentation in the hot shop with color application, trying to get some bruising colors, a bunch of different shades for all those different flavors. Yeah, and you can really start to see the amount of detail that you can get with this process. Like this is all glass, but I can really achieve this kind of hyper real texture and coloring, which is really fun. And I think there's a lot of potential to it.
So it's so realistic. It's unbelievable how you would match these colors so well, the tones.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting there, and it's just crazy that it's glass, you know. And I have a lot of people, because I do a lot of work in silicone, a lot of people are asking, like, or assume that they're silicone, but actually it's glass.
Yeah, I would be one of the many that assume. It's
incredible. So this is the last piece that I have to show you today. Also made in StarWorks. Just recently finished it. It is called The Weight. And it is, believe it or not, a self-portrait. So this is just a silicone bust made of silicone and foam. I have human hair, and then some cane worked blown glass in that vortex in the face.
Wow.
Again, all sculpted from hand, painted, yada yada. And this is kind of the beginning of a larger series of work I want to do of full figures. I can't go to residencies and make full figures because it's just impossible, but this was, let's say, like a bit of an experiment to see how things might go. And I think I might go forward with it. I just need a couple of years and a lot of money.
And some space.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so I'm going to show you, indulge you all in some slides, process slides. This is usually what my studio, if I have one, looks like. It's a lot of limbs with some empty beer boxes in the background. So this would be the making of the suffering. And again, if you can remember, I really had no idea what I was doing for this. So I would have done things very differently, but you can see kind of some of the casting processes up there in the left-hand corner. Some of the painting processes, and then the hair punching. And the hair punching is incredibly tedious. actually, a lot of this work is incredibly tedious, and I think you need to have really a lot of patience, which is something I've never had. So this is all, it's all kind of a matter of like testing myself and training myself. And it's gotten to the stage where actually the hair punching, which is the most tedious part of it, is probably like my favorite part. So these things are all big teachers. The making of impressionable, you can see on the left hand side, this would be my setup for mold making. So that white is just a plasticine. You can see some painting and some hair punching processes. I thought I had more images for this one, which is unfortunate. So for this, I'd actually made the glass hands, let them cool down, and then I sculpted clay around the glass, and then took a mold of that clay, took it all out, removed the clay, put it all back together, and then poured the silicone in. And then painted it, and then spent a lot of time trying to blend in those materials together. And you can see on the right, those molds, I use fiberglass resin molds, especially for the silicone stuff. So this would be for Eve, and Eve is the only piece so far that I have done any life casting with. The hands and the legs were life cast, but the head was sculpted, as you can see in that first image. And that middle image is the painting process, and as are the last two actually, and that's my real hand and my silicone hand, and I'm kind of testing the colors there. So this is that hot mold glowing process. So that first corner image on the left is while I'm sculpting. After that, I'll take a silicone mold of the clay, which will be my wax mold. So you can see all the wax positives lined up there in the next image. I'll take plaster silicone mold of that, pop them in the oven, which you can see. Then I'll blow into the hot molds, which is how I get such a realistic texture. Take them out the next day, unpack them, and then I'll start the cold work, which you can see in that last image. And the cold working is the last step before putting them back in the oven and picking them up and assembling them. Some process for the weight. I mean, once you see the process once, you can kind of imagine that it's similar every time. There's a few different steps if I'm working with glass or if I'm working with silicone, but it's all kind of the same. Again, with these silicone molds, I'll use resin fiberglass. They're just really lightweight, strong molds. And that's all I got for you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sadhbh. That was incredible. It's a small glimpse into your vision, and I'm only looking forward to what comes next, because I'm gonna have you stop sharing your screen if you don't mind. It's such a vision, and you're so driven to create these things, talking about the narrative and talking about what's in your head and interaction between people. And I've always had this idea too. You know, what is art? You know, it's in the eye of the beholder, and you have a choice in life to surround yourself with things that are beautiful, things that have meaning, things that make you think, things that cause an emotional response. But you're just creating for the sake of, you know, creating what you're passionate and creating what you want to explain in your narrative. So thank you for sharing with us today, and I'm honored to have you in our May GG invitation. And should you have like more things coming up or plans, please keep us informed, because obviously, you know, what your work blew both me and my brother away when we saw the stuff the first time, and decided that we had to have you in this presentation, because you're obviously beyond medium creating what you want to create, and just the detail work and just the understanding how long it took you to put every hair into that monkey. It's simply impressive. So thank you again. So this will be posted on YouTube for those who watch it on the replay. Please share, like, subscribe. I guess comment is important. Hit the bell kind of thing on that. And then, you know, tune in for next month's NGG. This continues. We'll have one, I think, just before the international in June. Pay attention. Do visit the NGG website. We're trying to get Instagram and social media up and running for NGG better. It just takes a lot of work, as many of you know. It's just another full-time job we all have. So I put a price list in the chat of the available work, and also there'll be a newsletter sent out tomorrow for those who missed this, so they can see the work then. Thank you again, Sadhbh. It was great having you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Looking forward to seeing you in person as you're coming in for the GAS conference.
I am. So see you all there, hopefully.
It'll be fantastic. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.